Welcome to my channel, Polymath. You will find that many people in movies have big beards. It's not because they can't afford a barber, but because they grow it on purpose. Those who grow beards are actually wealthy people who have to take care of their facial hair by applying beard wax or mousse, and they have to trim and shape it. Poor people don't grow beards not because they don't have time to shave, but because they can't even afford a razor, let alone beard grooming products. In fact, in countries with Christian, Jewish, and Islamic beliefs, it is common to see men with big beards. For them, the length of their beard is not just a personal preference, but a choice based on faith and values. Today, let's take a look at some Muslim elders who all have big beards, especially the Taliban. They require all men to grow an untrimmed beard and forbid them from shaping it into a goatee or Hitler mustache. This tradition has a historical origin. Islam originated from Judaism. Beards represent male strength and the embodiment of God's gift of masculinity. Only non-believers shave their faces, and if they must trim their beard, they cannot use scissors but must burn it off. Moreover, they believe that women should not touch men's beards casually, as it would damage their masculine energy and make them effeminate. This Jewish tradition still exists today, and we can see that Orthodox Jews in Israel, who account for less than 10% of the population, often have big beards that are just as long and dense as those of the Taliban. Christianity also originated from Judaism and initially followed this tradition. We can see this in the portraits of Jesus and his disciples, who all have big beards. Many revered monks and ascetics keep their beards throughout their lives. However, after Christianity became the state religion of Rome, the faces of clergy became cleaner and cleaner, as people at that time believed that beards, like women's long hair, were sexually suggestive. Men with big beards were implicitly displaying their sexual attractiveness to women, and this was considered inappropriate for members of the clergy, who are supposed to be pure and chaste. Therefore, to demonstrate their celibacy, all church officials began to shave their faces. As the Roman Empire began to split, the Christian Church gradually divided into two major denominations, Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Catholicism followed the Roman tradition, and in 1119, the Catholic Church decreed that clergy who did not shave would be expelled from the church. Pope Gregory IX also said that those who do not comply with these rules should be excommunicated. This is simply treason. So priests and believers are all bearded men like those on the streets. As a result, having a beard became a distinguishing feature between Catholics and Orthodox. At this time, the church's chin was clean, and the big beards of secular society were left. The prototype in Western Europe comes from the Frankish dynasty established by a group of Germans. After the Germans destroyed the Roman Empire, they summarized their lessons learned on beards. You see, all you Romans shave your chin clean. Men and women can't be distinguished on the street, and men become feminized over time. There is no reason why such a country would not perish, so they called on society to keep their beards. Anyone who shaves their beard will be despised by everyone. Louis VII, king of the Capetian dynasty of France, once shaved off his beard. Queen Eleanor was very unhappy about this and angrily remarried Count Anjou, a big bearded man, without divorcing. He later became King Henry II of England, and Aquitaine fell into his hands as dowry. Since then, this piece of land has become a fiercely contested area between England and France, and it is one of the reasons why the 100 Years' War broke out later. So, because of not having a beard, you fought for 100 years. However, at this time, the beard is not like the untrimmed beard of the Jews, but the short goat or mustache. If you keep the untrimmed beard, you will be regarded as a barbarian. For example, Russians especially like to keep big beards, so they are often seen as a joke by other European ethnic groups. Therefore, Peter the Great, who studied in the Netherlands for several years in the early 18th century, could not bear to see it. When he returned to Russia, he vigorously carried out modernization reforms. One of the important contents was to align with the West in terms of dress. He banned men from keeping traditional big beards and even carried a pair of scissors with him. When he saw nobles with big beards, he would personally cut them off. At the beginning, in Peter the Great's view, keeping a beard was unforgivable and even classified as a reactionary political force. But because there were too many people with beards and the Orthodox Church had been promoting them, it was not easy to go against the Church. Therefore, the policy was still compromised, and it was allowed to keep the beard if one wanted. The way is pay the money. If a bearded man enters a city in the Russian Empire at that time, he needs to pay a beard tax of 100 rubles. The government will give you a certificate to keep your beard, which is actually a coin with the words "beards are a useless burden" on it. This coin must be carried with you at all times. If the police see you on the street and you cannot show this coin, they will provide a free shaving service for you. However, both paying the beard tax and receiving the coin only apply to common people. Nobles who enter and exit the palace, government officials, and soldiers cannot keep a single beard. In the 19th century, the situation changed again. European left-wing revolutionaries, in order to realize their rebellious spirit of freedom, began to grow long, untrimmed beards. The beard became a symbol of revolutionaries. In some conservative countries, a full beard was called the beard of democracy. After World War I, regardless of whether their political orientation was conservative or radical, people did not want to keep their beards because with the advent of cameras and video cameras, beards did not look good in front of the lens. And it was easy to look sloppy no matter how they were groomed. Politicians who appeared on the podium with beards were immediately judged by their image before they even spoke. In such an environment, candidates must tidy themselves up before appearing in public. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair had a goatee when he was young, but shaved it off when he ran for office. Standing in front of the camera, he looked polished and shiny. Maybe that's one of the reasons how he won the election. In the Muslim world, beards have deep political significance. In the 9th century Muslim world, a book of Muslim sayings and practices was published, and specific instructions for beards were included, requiring men to keep a full beard. Gradually, preserving a long beard became a symbol of conservative Muslims. In the modernization reforms of various Muslim countries, beards, like the veil and robe worn by women, were labeled as backward and barbaric by secular leaders. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the founder of modern Turkey, prohibited the public from keeping beards and wearing traditional Turkish attire during the process of establishing a modern government. Men were not allowed to keep large beards on their chins and women were not allowed to wear veils. These actions were considered illegal, and offenders faced fines or even imprisonment. In contrast, the Taliban ruling Afghanistan required men to keep beards as a sign of their devotion to Allah. Some athletes who had contact with the West knew that this was not an attractive look and refused to keep beards. As a result, the Taliban banned athletes from leaving the country to participate in competitions. After the fall of the Taliban regime in 2001, people lined up in front of barber shops in Kabul to shave their beards, showing their disconnection from the old regime. However, now that the Taliban have regained power, they have issued a new law requiring men to keep beards and have sent out investigation teams to enforce the law. Barber shops that provide shaving services have been shut down, and the owners have been arrested and sentenced. This is similar to the situation in the Qing dynasty and the Republic of China, where people were forced to cut off their braids, only to have them return 20 years later when the Qing dynasty was restored. As an old man in a tea house once said, "I'm keeping my braid just in case the emperor returns." Throughout history, beards have been more than just a personal preference. They have also been a political symbol. Whether people choose to shave or keep their beards, it is a propaganda tool used by rulers to express their stance. However, in modern society, we should respect everyone's freedom of choice, whether they choose to shave or not, as it is a personal need and others have no right to interfere. Do you have a beard? A big one? Share your opinion with us and leave comment below. Thank you for your